The value of trust. The women of Siwa learned to trust each other with their lives and their families' futures. The Siwa program helped them pool their savings and lend that money to other women who needed it to invest in their businesses, their kids' educations, and more. If you think that sounds like a bank, you're right. Siwa is a bank too. Siwa borrowers repaid almost 100% of their loans, 96% to be exact, and the women who pooled their savings knew they could take their money back if they needed it. Now imagine if you didn't know if you could open a bank account, or if after you'd opened a bank account and made a deposit, you didn't know whether your money would be there when you needed it or even just the next time you went to the bank. Imagine you didn't know whether or not the money you earned or invested today would be worth 100 or 1,000 times less in a year because of something called inflation, where money can lose value quickly if people lose trust in a country. Imagine you bought a piece of land to farm or to open a business on, and you didn't know whether or not you would own that land or the business in a year because a government official could take your property and you couldn't do anything about it because the police and courts weren't honest. Imagine if to avoid that fate you had to pay a big bribe to the same government official threatening to take your property away, trading your hard earned money just to keep your business going. You wouldn't want to participate in corruption, but to not pay the bribe would mean all your hard work would be for nothing. Imagine you didn't know if the president in office today would still hold office tomorrow or have been forcibly removed from power, what's called a military coup. Imagine if you read the newspaper or listened to the radio and you couldn't trust what you were hearing. Not because of a difference of opinions, but because the facts themselves were literally made up to serve the purpose of whoever owned the newspaper, often the government, not the public. This roller coaster of uncertainty is what people face in many countries around the world. Why is it important to trust in the reliability of what we participate in, whether putting money in a bank, running a business, or voting? If people can't rely on their money having consistent value and being in the bank when they want to make a withdrawal, or if people are worried their country may tip into civil war at any point, there's arguably little reason for working hard today. The thinking goes, why bother if it could all be gone tomorrow? If people aren't working hard and coming up with new ideas, investing in and expanding croplands and businesses, economies don't grow. But if people know that their governments aren't going to topple, that their governments aren't corrupt, that bribes aren't necessary to do business, that banks are going to be around tomorrow, that their money won't be worthless, and that everyone is treated fairly and equally by the legal system, economies are more likely to grow and more people likely to move out of poverty. The different experiences of South Korea, a well functioning democracy, and North Korea, a brutal dictatorship, demonstrates this contrast as seen in the chart. Being near the bottom of Transparency International's corruption index means that in North Korea, bribes to officials, whether in the government, the army, or otherwise, are a common, even expected part of doing business. Those who do not have access to the internet in North Korea often work for the government and seem to spend a lot of time targeting the United States and US based businesses. In South Korea, the more than 90% of people who have access to the internet also enjoy the fastest average internet connection speeds in the world. In recent decades, hunger and famine have repeatedly struck North Korea, but not South Korea. Before World War II and the Korean War, which effectively ended in 1953, Korea was one very poor country. The main differences since then: the types of systems, political, legal, business, education, that each built over time and what each invested in or didn't. After the Korean War, South Korea's government invested in building water, sanitation, electricity, education, transportation, and healthcare systems and watched its economy expand, and most South Koreans move well out of extreme poverty. North Korea didn't make any of those investments in a serious way that would benefit most North Koreans. Where would you rather live? It's not a hard question to answer when it's between North and South Korea. Sometimes it's a less obvious answer, particularly when we think of beautiful places blessed with diamonds, oil, or other precious natural resources.